guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is November 7th. It is day 7 of Nano, and today we are going to be talking about novel ideas and concepts.
Stop chasing all the city lights. Breathe me in, go on and take your bite. Count on me to make you come.
So everybody's writing process is different, and where their ideas come from spurns from a variety of different places, a variety of different prompts, a variety of different situations. So one of the things that I'm asked a lot is, where do my ideas come from? And the magical thing about being a writer is that our ideas can be so vastly different. You can give 12 writers the same prompt and you will have 12 different stories, because that's how the human mind works. It's kind of an amazing thing. So let's talk about ideas and concepts that you get for books or screenplays or short stories or novellas or anything really. So the easiest explanation to where ideas come from is life. Or someday you'll just have a random muse person character show up in your head and they will decide to stay there. Or you get this really cool world that just pops into your head and you're like, oh, what would happen if this existed? What could we do within the realms of this world, its boundaries, its rules? Or maybe a situation. Then you can say, ooh, if this, then what? So there's so much different people watching, conversations, the news. It's crazy where people can get ideas. One of the things that I'm asked the most is, what do I get first? Characters or plot or worlds? And the answer to that is it varies. A lot of the times, if I get a fantasy or a science fiction idea, which is usually I will get fantasy or urban fantasy ideas more than I will sci-fi. I have a few sci-fi ideas, but with fantasy, for example, I will usually get a character that just pops into my head and says, hey, I'm gonna set up camp right here in the front of your head. And everybody else can take a back seat. And everybody else that's in your headspace is kind of like, what gives, bro? Come on. And so usually with that kind of a character, the world comes first. There have been certain situations where I get plot or concepts for novels first, and those are a little bit harder for me to really bring to fruition because I am a character. My characters really drive the plot and vice versa. And I like to have both at the same time, and I like to have both really honed in at the same time. It's just how my process works. So if I get a world, usually I will get characters that go with it, or a certain type of character that goes with it. If I get a situation, I will normally, or a plot, I will normally get a character that is thrust into this plot. So that's how that works out for me. It might be different for other writers, but that's kind of how my process works. How do I keep track of these various concepts? Very simply, I write everything down or I dictate it on my phone. I have to keep notes with me everywhere because if I don't write it down, I'll forget it. Or if I don't write it down, it'll just keep bothering me. So I need to write it down so that it's out of my head so that I can focus on what I am currently writing. And I can say, hey, you are tabled for another day. I need to be focused on this right now, but I have written down your tale or your background or what you wanted to say to me or this concept. You're gonna have to wait your turn, which is probably the hardest thing as a writer that I've had to learn, is not to popcorn around in ideas. Because once you get into the middle of a book, which is, I believe, the hardest part of a book to write is the middle. The end and the beginning are exciting. There's passion, there's tension, there's the easy conflict that you just know because you know the beginning, maybe you know the end. The middle is where it gets muddled. And you can tend to lose tension and just start wandering. So when you're in the middle of a book, that's normally the time when you are going to find new people, new characters, new places, and new situations that want to be the big shiny squirrel thing that keeps your mind off of it. And you really have to be disciplined as a writer to say, okay, I'm going to write you down, but you're tabled until I can get to you. Because as we all know as writers, we have laundry lists of things that we want to write. Which brings me to another great point. How long do I actually wait to sit down and start to flesh out these concepts, these characters, this world for potential books? The answer to that is I have learned to sit on it and really think about, is this in line with what I write? Is this in line with my brand? Is this in line with the genre that I write? If yes, then I will look into it a little further. I'll let characters speak to me. I'll let the situation kind of play out in movie format in my head, because honestly, in movie format in my head, that's how I see my books happening. That's how I write. I see it flash scene by scene by scene. If it's a little bit wholly, like plot hole here, plot hole there, I'm not exactly sure here, I'm not exactly sure there, I will table it because I obviously need more time to work on it. And if I don't have time to work on it in that time frame, then I just simply won't work on it, because if I have to get book A out because I have a deadline, I'm not going to work on book E that I haven't even fully fleshed out. I know some people do 0 drafts, or they don't plot, they pants. I am not that person. That is not part of my process. I can't do that. I have to know where I'm going and what my rules and parameters are. That way I can play as much as I want within those rules and regulations that my world or characters have set up for me. Because as a writer, the number one rule is you don't want to break your own rules. So keep that in mind. And that kind of is a point of what is a good story idea and what needs more time and what will never come to fruition. So there are stories that I have that I thought, oh my gosh, this is so great, that I start to plot them out or flesh them out, and I realize it's too basic of an idea, so I'm going to table it, or it's just not going to work for me. And sometimes it takes a chapter, sometimes it takes 12 chapters, sometimes it takes half of a book, or even a full manuscript to realize, nope, this isn't going to happen. And that's okay, because in doing so, you've learned something, you've learned how not to do something, but you've worked on your craft and you can shelve it. And should something in the future come up in your brain that really works well, that you can tie to that concept or those characters and make that book better, maybe then you can revisit it. But I would generally say if you've tabled it for one reason or another, unless you really get a spark or like just like an oh my gosh, an aha moment, then I would go back and revisit it. But if it's something you tabled and something you have accepted that it was fun to write, it was for me, it isn't going to be something I publish or move ahead with or move on with, then you've already kind of answered your own question. Another thing that I've also learned about my process is I never write on impulse, meaning I never start writing a book on impulse. I have done that a few times and I have really shot myself in the foot. I had, it was back when I was writing for the market, or writing to chase the trend, or writing to get ahead of the trend, or writing what was blowing up. And 9 times out of 10, those things were not A, in my genre, B, in my brand, or C, which is the most important part, what I like to write. They were not what I like to write at all. So I have learned not to write by impulse. Impulse can be anything from a nugget of an idea and just go full throttle with it on a book. Again, if that is your process and that is how you figure yourself out, great. It's not my process. I'm not saying it can't be done, but for me, I have to really flesh a lot of things out. I am a plotter through and through. I like knowing secrets that my readers will never know, because it helps me choose or show how my characters will react to certain things. And the reader might not never know why they reacted that way, but I know, and it's a part of their character to make them a bit more unique, that sort of thing. Don't write to chase trends. Don't write to chase the market. Write what you love. And if you want to write to chase the market and, do all that stuff, that's perfectly fine. That is your prerogative. Do that. I just know that when I did it, I tabled a series I should have finished last year, which is a Legend series, and I lost a lot of money on it. I wasted so much money as an indie trying to do that. So it's up to you. This is just my experience with it. Don't write on impulse. Don't write for market, unless you are that kind of a writer, and that's totally fine. Again, no judgment here. But for somebody like me who really needs to feel like my books are feeding my soul and my purpose here in life, and if you're the same way, don't write on impulse. Just don't. It'll cause you more pain in the end. And finally, if I get characters or a concept or an idea for a book, first, what do I do? How do I explore that idea? Well, the first thing that I will do before I actually take that concept or character into actual fleshing it out, I will let the character monologue to me. So I will let them monologue and talk, and I will ask them questions, and I will write the answers down. I will get their feelings on everything from, what they like, their favorite color, what they don't like, if they have an aversion to anything, their past, something they don't want anybody to know, like a secret or a weakness. If it's a world, I will definitely explore that world in my brain. Like, okay, how many races are there? What's the cultures like? And those take me a lot more time because they're fantasy, and I am in the process, in the background of doing that right now with a YA series. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to flesh it out, actually map it out, which I do have a map on Incarnate, and it's a lot. And then you got to figure out cultures, and some of those cultures you may never touch. You may just mention that rug from that place, but you need to know that culture to be able to describe that rug from that place so that it makes sense to your characters and your world. If I have a concept, like I said, I usually will get characters that will be involved in that situation or that conflict, and if I just have a concept, I will usually think about the worst possible person to put in that situation, because I'm cruel, and I just think if we're gonna have conflict, let's put the worst person possible in this situation and see how they do. So sometimes I do that and I'm like, oh, this is funny in a cruel way, because it just ups your tension, it ups, the ante, and you raise the stakes, and you get to see this person who has to use their own personal strengths that they may never think they would ever have had to need in this situation. They're just making the best of it, and they're able to make the best out of a bad situation and use what they're good at in order to survive or endure what you are throwing at them. So that is all I have for today. I just wanted to sit down and talk about concepts and ideas. You can get ideas from anywhere. You can get ideas from music. You can get ideas from movies, people watching, other books that you've read without plagiarizing or copying, or simple things as simple questions, just asking yourself, what if this happened? Or what if that was the opposite? And you can just run with the ideas. There is no limit to creativity, which is what I love, and there are no boundaries in writing. There are boundaries in writing, but there are no boundaries saying that if you want a high fantasy with zombies that are cognizant, that they know what they're thinking and they know that they're zombies, you can totally have that. It'd be interesting to see how you do that, but it's just an example of concepts can be anything and characters can be anything. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, my name is Kylie. If you like this kind of content, subscribe down below, follow my socials that I have linked in the description, and yeah, I will update you guys tomorrow, November 8th. I will be at Readers and Readers all day from the 8th, 9th, and the 10th. I will be vlogging daily, hopefully getting those vlogs up for you guys. I'm not exactly sure how many words I'm going to be getting this weekend because I am going to be vlogging, but I hope to update you in the description for how many words that I got today. Again, I have a lot of prep to do. An extra box of books just showed up at my door, so I have to go through those and get ready for the signing, but I will keep you posted. And one love, you guys, and good luck nanoing. Holly, let me get your head. Look at that face.